This is my 27-inch Trucut reel mower. It is what I use to keep my Bermuda in tip-top shape, and I thought I'd take a few minutes and explain how it works. Trucut has two primary controls outside of the engine. One is to engage the reel, and the other is to engage the drive. This is the business end of the mower. As you can see, this is the main drive shaft assembly. This is the bracket that engages the drive disc for the reel, and on the other side there's a similar drive disc for the wheels, to engage the wheels to go forward. When you engage the reel, it forces the clutch plate against the drive sprocket. The drive sprocket free spins on the axle until the reel plate engages it, at which time they spin at the same RPMs. The drive sprocket here is connected directly to the output shaft of the motor. On the other side of the drive shaft is the chain that runs the wheels, and this is another clutch plate that is forced against the drive sprocket. This is free spinning on the shaft. It has two brass bushings, and later I'll show you a damaged one so you can see that better. But this free spins, and when it engages, it drives the wheels. As you notice here, each drive side of the drive sprocket has a thrust bearing, a spring, an arm or lever, another thrust bearing, and a pillow block bearing. For the reel itself, it has a drive sprocket, runs a chain, and it has a guide tensioner here that keeps the chain from flopping around. Pretty simple. One of the things that sets the Trucut apart from a lot of the other mowers, reel mowers, is the slip-in clutch, which allows you to change the speed, the drive speed, without actually changing the throttle speed of the motor. I know in some of the California trimmers that the only way to alter the speed is by the throttle. This allows you to slip the clutch, or slip the disc clutch, and especially when you're going around planter beds and things like that, you can lightly press the lever and the mower will creep along. But then when you get in the open, out in the wide open, you can just push it and it'll be fully engaged. It'll be at a 1-to-1 ratio with the speed of the motor. So we'll look at the drive side and engaging when you're using it. If you look at this, when I push the lever forward, it compresses the drive plate against the drive sprocket. And these drive sprockets have a clutch lining in them, a wear surface. And so it's pretty simple. If you push it hard, it fully engages. Push it lightly, it'll turn slightly slower than the actual drive shaft speed. But I think you can get the idea with that. Thought it'd be nice to take a close-up look at the drive mechanism. Fortunately, I have one from a project mower that sheared, probably due to lack of greasing, and I'll explain in a few minutes where I think the problem was and caused it to fail. What I'm spinning here is the main drive sprocket. This sprocket is driven by a chain via the motor and provides the power for both the reel and the drive function. Alright, so if you have the reel engaged, as you see, it turns the entire shaft. Shaft's turning in the back. And if this was on the mower, this is the drive side plate. You see it won't turn. So once the reel's engaged, the shaft is turning, and the same setup on this side, thrust bearings and springs, engages the drive. Where I think that this one failed is all that keeps this going is a set of brass bushings. If you look in here, it's brass, and there's brass, and they're right up to each other. If you don't keep this greased, this shaft will eventually if you don't keep them well greased, this shaft will eventually seize. I don't know for sure that this is what happens since it didn't break for me. It's just a guess because it's a weak point if not serviced properly. Do the extra parts off the engaging mechanism so you can see this. This is the reel drive plate. As you can see, this has a lining on it. The drive sprocket has a lining. This one is pretty deeply grooved. The clutch plate on this one is almost gone. These are serviceable. You can buy the clutch plates and put new pads on. Drill out the rivets and put new rivets in. As you can see at the top, it's keyed, and therefore when this drive plate is engaged, the entire shaft is turning on the mower. The drive side is very similar. Again, I mentioned this earlier, these just ride on a brass bushing, must be greased, and you can see on here it's a drive chain that transfers the power from here back to the wheels. So that's the basic makeup of the Trucut drive mechanism. I think it's a pretty robust system, and if properly maintained and greased, it should last you for many years. At the bottom here, you'll notice that there is a housing, and that is actually a true differential, and that means that each tire, each side runs independently of each other. In a minute here I'll show you how that works, but the huge advantage of that is when you're turning on your lawn, this is a very heavy machine, that it won't tear your grass. Well, now that we've seen how this Trucut works, I think the next best thing we can do is mow some of this Bermuda and see this bad boy in action.